12 worst cars of the 1990s. The 1990s were a time of bold dreams, and cars that promised the world but often delivered disappointment. For those of you who cruised the roads back then, you might recall the sinking feeling of driving a car that rattled, wheezed, or just plain embarrassed you in front of your neighbors. Some vehicles from that decade were so bad they became legends, for all the wrong reasons. From underpowered engines to flimsy builds, these cars broke hearts and wallets. Join us as we count down the 12 worst cars of the 1990s, from bad to downright dreadful, and share your own horror stories from the road in the comments below. Number 12, 1996 Plymouth Breeze. Chrysler thought they could slap a budget badge on their JA platform and call it a day. But the Plymouth Breeze was a masterclass in cutting corners. Designed to be a low-cost alternative in the mid-size sedan market, it ended up being an exercise in mediocrity. With tacky plastic wheel covers and a body-colored grille that screamed, "We tried to save a buck," this sedan was as inspiring as a tax form. Its 2.0-liter four-cylinder engine barely mustered enough power to keep up with traffic, groaning loudly with every uphill climb. The Breeze had laughably few standard features: no ABS, no traction control, and certainly no thrills. Want power windows or remote locks? Those were luxury options. Road noise was ever present, and the suspension felt like it had given up trying. Reliability was sketchy, and rust was common. The Breeze's overwhelming cheapness sealed Plymouth's fate, dragging the brand to its grave by 2001. Number 11, 1997 Acura CL. Acura hyped the CL as a sleek, upscale coupe, but it was just a Honda Accord in a fancy suit. And not a particularly stylish one at that. Built in the US, it shared the Accord's wheelbase, suspension, and uninspiring 2.2-liter engine, down to the exact horsepower and torque figures. Why shell out $25,000 when the Accord delivered the same experience for less? The CL's bland exterior design failed to impress, and its interior, though functional, lacked the premium materials and attention to detail Acura promised. Buyers quickly realized the CL was little more than a dressed-up economy car. Even the technology, which was supposed to signal luxury, felt outdated before the car left the lot. The CL's dismal sales reflected its identity crisis, and Acura quietly let it fade into obscurity. Number 10, 1993 Toyota T100. Toyota's T100 was meant to take on Detroit's full-size pickups, but it showed up looking like it skipped leg day. Meant to be Toyota's first real entry into the lucrative American truck market, the T100 stumbled at every step. Its 3.0-liter V6 was woefully underpowered, barely managing to tow a modest trailer, let alone compete with Ford and Chevy's big boys. Payload capacity was limited, and despite its size, it felt fragile. The T100's bland exterior design could have doubled as a delivery van, and its cramped cabin, narrow seating, and harsh ride disappointed buyers expecting Toyota's usual attention to comfort and quality. Adding an extended cab and optional supercharger didn't help much. The truck still felt like a lightweight in a heavyweight fight. The T100 lacked charisma, capability, and consumer trust. Toyota eventually redeemed itself with the Tundra, but the T100 remains a forgettable misstep in Toyota's otherwise strong pickup lineage. Number 9, 1996 Ford Taurus. The Ford Taurus was once America's darling, a sales leader that redefined midsize sedans. But the 1996 redesign turned it into a punchline. Ford's obsession with ovals birthed a car with egg-shaped headlights, grille, and a rear window that looked like it was melting in the sun. The interior's oval center stack was equally bizarre, and the cheap plastic squeaked like a haunted house whenever the car hit a bump. The base 3.0-liter Vulcan V6 struggled with the Taurus's portly frame, and the transmission was notoriously fragile. Handling was mushy, and steering lacked feedback. Build quality dropped significantly, with misaligned panels and rattles emerging within months. Ford tried to salvage sales by flooding rental fleets, but that only cemented its reputation as a throwaway car. The Taurus lost its bestseller crown in 1997, never to recover its former glory. It was a fall from grace, fueled by poor design choices and declining quality. Number 8, 1997 Cadillac Catera. Cadillac aimed to woo younger buyers with the Catera, but this rebadged Opel Omega was a luxury car in name only. Marketed with the slogan, "the caddy that zigs," it felt more like a wheeze. Its generic styling blended into traffic like a rental car, In the interior's hard plastics and flimsy trim screamed budget, not prestige. The 3.0-liter V6 had decent power on paper, but the soft suspension, vague steering, and excessive body roll made sporty driving a pipe dream. Reliability issues plagued early models, from electrical glitches to coolant leaks and premature transmission failures. Buyers expecting BMW or Mercedes refinement were bitterly disappointed. Features were minimal, and those it had didn't work well. The Catera's failure forced Cadillac to rethink its strategy, eventually paving the way for the sharper, more focused CTS. But the damage was done. The Catera remains a cautionary tale in brand mismanagement. Number 7. 1994 Dodge Ram Van. The 1994 Dodge Ram Van was a dinosaur in a shiny new nose. Built on a 1971 platform with a dashboard from 1978, it was a relic that Chrysler barely bothered to update. The van received a cosmetic facelift, but its bones were ancient. The Magnum engines offered some pep, but the van's shoddy build quality, think misaligned panels, leaky seals, and rattling doors, made every drive a gamble. Ergonomics were atrocious, with awkward controls and limited visibility. Safety was nearly non-existent, and crash ratings were dreadful. The ride was bone-jarring, and the interior felt like a time capsule from the Nixon era. Air conditioning was optional, and seat comfort was laughable. Compared to Ford's more modern Econoline, the Ram van was a joke, sold mostly to penny-pinching fleet managers and small businesses, before being replaced by a rebadged Sprinter in the 2000s. It was a clunker that overstayed its welcome. Number 6. 1994 Saab 900. Saab's quirky charm was its lifeblood, but the 1994 900, born under GM's thumb, lost all personality. Built on the Opel Vectra platform, it traded originality for corporate blandness. The 2.0-liter four-cylinder was noisy and underpowered, and the suspension lacked the precision and feedback of earlier Saabs. The body felt disconnected from the road, and torque steer was a constant nuisance. Sure, it kept the hatchback profile and ignition key between the seats, but those nods couldn't mask its generic feel. Even the famous night panel feature, dimming gauges for night driving, felt like a desperate grab at Saab's fading identity. Interior materials were a step down from the past, with creaky plastics and uninspired layouts. Enthusiasts who once championed the brand felt betrayed. The 900's failure marked the start of Saab's slow, painful decline into irrelevance and eventual death. Number 5. 1993 Honda Civic Del Sol. Honda aimed to blend the CRX's sportiness with the Miata's convertible flair, but the Civic Del Sol was a clumsy compromise. Its targa top was heavy and impractical, requiring multiple steps to remove and store, eating up trunk space that could barely hold a grocery bag. The base 1.5-liter engine wheezed under the car's added weight, making acceleration a chore. Even the 160-horsepower VTEC variant couldn't overcome the car's lackluster dynamics. Low-grip tires and uninspired suspension tuning made for forgettable handling, and road noise was constant. The interior was cramped and plasticky, with flimsy controls and dated gauges. Weather sealing issues led to leaky tops, and rust became a problem. Despite Honda's reputation, the Del Sol failed to capture the magic of its predecessors. Sales tanked, and by 1997, Honda mercy killed it, proving you can't force two legends into one car. Number 4. 1995 Chevrolet Cavalier. The 1995 Cavalier was a monument to GM's small car apathy. Replacing an already outdated model, Chevy somehow made things worse. The sedan's awkward proportions and cheap interior screamed neglect, while the convertible's flimsy frame shook like a leaf in a storm. The 2.2-liter engine was loud, unrefined, and gutless, paired with a suspension that wallowed through turns and absorbed bumps like a trampoline. Build quality was shockingly poor, with rattles, rust, and fading paint common by year 2. Safety was another low point. Crash test scores were horrific, scaring off safety-conscious buyers. Even basic features like air conditioning and power mirrors were hit or miss. Against the Honda Civic or Toyota Corolla, the Cavalier looked like a toy, limping on for a decade as a sad symbol of Chevy's compact car failures. Its longevity was more about fleet sales than customer love. Number 3. 1990 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme Convertible. The Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme Convertible was a structural nightmare with a side of bad taste. Its massive basket handle roll bar, meant to anchor seatbelts and door latches, made it look like a carnival float. The body flexed so much it felt like driving a wet noodle, and the 3.1-liter V6 struggled to move the heavy chassis with any authority. Wind noise was incessant, and the ride quality was punishing on anything but glass-smooth roads. The interior's cheap plastics and dated design screamed cost-cutting, and GM's promise of an airbag to ditch the roll bar never materialized. Reliability was sketchy at best, with electrical gremlins and suspension failures common. Sales were abysmal, and by 1995, this floppy drop-top was mercifully scrapped. It's remembered more for its weird looks than anything resembling driving pleasure. Number 2, 1991 Toyota Previa. Toyota's Previa was a minivan misfire that left buyers scratching their heads. Its egg-shaped design looked like it rolled out of a cartoon, instantly polarizing in a segment that valued practicality over flair. The mid-engine layout, though innovative, meant a weak 2.4-liter four-cylinder that took 13.6 seconds to hit 60 miles per hour, a snail's pace, even for a van. A supercharger added later helped marginally, but made the engine noisier and thirstier. The interior was tight, with awkward seating configurations and poor cargo flexibility. Maintenance was difficult due to the engine placement, making even oil changes a chore. Poor fuel economy and sky-high prices couldn't compete with Chrysler's dominating minivans. The Previa's odd styling, sluggish performance, and impractical layout turned buyers away in droves, forcing Toyota to regroup with the far more conventional Sienna. Number 1, 1990 Yugo Cabrio. The Yugo Cabrio earns the dubious honor of the 1990s worst car, a rolling disaster that made its hardtop sibling look like a Rolls-Royce. Built in Yugoslavia, it paired the Yugo's shoddy quality with a finicky electro-hydraulic convertible top that broke more often than it worked. The 1.1-liter carbureted engine coughed out a pathetic 55 horsepower, struggling to move the car's flimsy frame. Acceleration was glacial, and hill climbs were anxiety-inducing. Rust spread like wildfire, and the interior's cheap plastics cracked under the sun. Handling was terrifying, with body flex that felt like the car might split in two around corners. It lacked even the most basic safety features, and construction quality was third world at best. Fewer than 100 were sold before Yugo's U.S. collapse in 1992, cementing the Cabrio as an automotive tragedy. The 1990s gave us some unforgettable cars, but these 12 clunkers remind us that not every road leads to glory. From the Yugo Cabrio's rusting ruin to the Plymouth Breeze's budget blunders, these vehicles were a masterclass in what not to do. They broke down, shook apart, or just plain disappointed, leaving drivers with stories of frustration and regret. Yet their failures paved the way for better cars, as automakers learned from their mistakes. So here's to the cars we'd rather forget, but never will. Which 90s car gave you nightmares? Share your tales and let's keep the conversation rolling.